the athletes are still continuing their course inspection. 3 minutes remain. 3 minutes remain to inspect the course. We'll close that course at 7:45. 3 minutes more to inspect the course. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the athletes, the course is closed. Course is closed. Please leave the arena and arena maintenance will be underway. Please leave the arena, the course is closed.
Well, good evening and welcome to Lexington, Kentucky. It's the 139th edition of the National Horse Show of the United States of America, and it is time for our International Welcome Stake, a $73,800 class that is the prelude, the gateway competition to Saturday night's Longines FEI Jumping World Cup here of Lexington, Kentucky. 20 more points on offer on the season-long gallop to the finals in Omaha, Nebraska in April. Well, we've got a field of nearly 40 going to post. We're going to see Jessica Lito, Grace Debney, who was very well placed in our earlier class, Kristen van der Veen in Bull Runs Risen will go early, as will Alex Granato. Alex rode Carlton earlier on. He's going to ride Helios here in the welcome. Jos Verlooy with his World Championship horse Igor, and another foreign flag there is Bert Manley of Switzerland, the three-time Swiss Olympian and former World Cup champion. Alish Cunniff and Vivaldi de Thiel, Alish's top horse that we've seen in action at the major level all around the world this year. Sam Schaefer and Fraser, Andrew Wells, Idle H&H, Andrew, who's had some very good runs in World Cup over the last few years. Mark Blumen and Noortje van der Windheuvel will go 18th. Mark, who was the winner earlier on this evening of the $37,000 speed. Egyptian Olympian Niall Nassar with Igor van der Wittemoren. Niall, a Nations Cup Grand Prix winner at St. Gallen in Switzerland in the Olympic year 2021. McLean Ward and Ilias McLean, who is the Omaha World Cup champion. Daniel Coyle and Ivory, the combination that won the welcome at Washington last week, will be followed by Rowan Willis and Blue Movie. Rowan once again on the World Cup trail. And then it's going to be Alexa Pessoa, Alexa and Carlitos Way going as our 24th. Aaron Vale, World Cup finalist this spring at Leipzig, Germany, will lead off this group of riders, which includes Captain Brian Cannan, Shane Sweetnam and the wonderful James Caan Cruz, Gizmo as he's known at home, the double clear machine for Nations Cups this year, and American Gold Cup winner as well. Hunter Holloway and Pepita Conspita, the winners of the 5-star at Saugerties, will be the 30th of the competitors we see just before Daniel Blumen. Daniel, who was on the podium last week in Washington in World Cup action. Summerhill with another Spy Coast farm-bred horse, La Belle SCF. Then Rodrigo Pessoa, the three-time World Cup champion. Samuel Parro, Chilean Olympian. David Blake, David and Kiyoki towards the end of the draw as well. And then it's just two more. A rider in his first international season, Evan Coluccio. And then last to go, Olympian Santiago Lambre with Casey. Santiago, who now represents Brazil, will be our 38th and last to show. As we said, with a welcome class like this, it's a jump-off format competition. Quite a tight time allowed, perhaps, 77 seconds in the first round, because there's a lot of jumping out there. We'll see how much of an influence that pays. I don't think Guilherme Jorge wants it to be too influential tonight. As we were talking about, out of this many horses, he'd love to get a jump off of 6 or 7 on Saturday night for World Cup. Tonight, though, as the welcome, he just wants to encourage the horses and also to get his own barometer of how the horses are jumping, how the horses are taking the ring, and that means that probably tonight he'd be happy if he saw 12 or 13 clear rounds, but we won't know until we go. And it's all about the first horse and rider coming into the ring, and they should be in just a few minutes time. As you can see, we're just putting a final touch up to the surface. The riders have already been in and walked, and we have 1 or 2 opening ceremonies to conclude before it is time for tonight's $73,800 International Welcome Stake, part of the International Jumper Tour here at the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup of Lexington. Stay with us.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, on the build-up to the $73,800 welcome stake, please turn your attention to the big screen to see and get a taste of what's been happening over the last week or so.
$31.78 to beat, $31.47 on the clock. Carl Cook is double clear and into the lead. It's State.
So much excitement and so much excitement to look forward to this evening. You saw on the big screen the winner of the class last year, Carl Cook, who took that victory. Now, before we do make a start, just a couple of minutes to first horse. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to welcome our anthem singer for the evening. A lady originally from Lexington here in Kentucky, Rachel Black holds degrees in vocal performance from Vanderbilt University and the University of Kentucky. She's performed in theatres across the country in everything from High School Musical to Mozart's Requiem. She's also toured internationally with the American Spiritual Ensemble. She's a former equestrian herself, and Rachel Black is thrilled to be singing at the National Horse Show for the third year in a row. Ladies and gentlemen, let's please ask you to stand and remove cover for the national anthem of the United States of America.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Rachel Black and the national anthem of the United States of America. One formality still to follow.
Fantastic start to our world ranking evening here.
The call for the first horse.
The international welcome stake going to kick off in just a moment once we sound the call here from our National Horse Show ringmaster.
Thank you very,
Excellently
very
done,
much
and
indeed.
we go on with a rider who has already been a top 5 finisher in a 5-star Grand Prix this year. That was at Saugerties in September. We start with Jessica Lito, Jessica with Simbura. So it'll be interesting to see our first take on this class. Jessica owns and rides Simbura, 11-year-old by Calido. Our number 1 represents the USA in quite an international field here.
Jessica Lito, she's had a tremendous season, 4th in the 5-star Grand Prix in Saugerties just a month or so ago. Riding Simbura, Jessica Lito for the USA.
Let's see some of what Guilherme Jorge has laid out for us here tonight. A little bit of a change from earlier on. We're not looking for any of those inside lines, really. We should just be able to get around nicely, taking all the wide turns. And staying inside the time. So just having taken the rail there early on, Jessica turns the circle before the horse flight to get ride back together a little bit. Comes down this distance to the mat, O'Donnell, the pale green. The triple combination, as I say, comes quite early on this course. 2 strides, 1 stride, vertical, vertical on the out, and both standing meter 50 as well. And you can see again how Guilherme is kind of taking the temperature of the field of horses and riders he has. He might book quite a similar triple combination, but quite late on the World Cup course. And of course that changes the dynamic of the question as well, from being an early one about control and accuracy and attention from the horse, to one later on being about a horse that still has the energy to deliver the goods over such a power test as a triple combination. So we're going into time penalties here, of course, because of the circle. We had a 77 seconds time allowed, as we mentioned, and the rails unfortunately continuing to fall as we come around to this meter 50 plank at the last. The horse makes a clean jump over that. Simbura and Jessica Lito will have a big score, unfortunately. 36 is the total for our number 1 to go.
Now, earlier in the season, Grace Debney took victory in her very first 5-star international competition. She was best of the Brits at the European Youth Championships earlier in the season and finished 4th in the international.
You see, quite a lot of the times it was just that rail or out of an oxer for first to go Jessica Lito, as we go on now to Great Britain's Grace Debney. Grace, who is a bronze medalist with the British team at the European Young Riders this year. Brought up here in the USA, but still riding for Great Britain. She was the 21 USET medal winner. Had a Grand Prix win this spring at the Winter Equestrian Festival at Wellington International, and was a 5-star winner. Took the winning round class during the American Gold Cup meeting in Michigan. Grace, who had a very good result earlier on, top 5, and proved in class after class at Washington that certainly against the clock, she is one to watch. The Welcome and the World Cup didn't quite go her way last week in Washington. A couple more rails on the floor than she would have necessarily have liked. We'll see what that week of learning and consolidation now has done for Grace as she clears through the triple combination. So this is quite an intense section of the course. You know, 3, 4, 5 ABC, they come up quite quick, and they come up quicker than you expect in this ring as well, just the way the ring is shaped. Grace will just take the rail there, off that oxer cutting across the ring, whilst comfortably clear of the meter 50 Taylor Harris. Yeah, the horses just looking down at the last minute into both of those oxers, so having the front rail, and they're on yellow cups, so very, very shallow cups. Grace just needs to keep this horse's head up, out in front of them. So it's 3 down. It is 12 for jumping for Grace and Agadans van Galut as we search for our first clear round. Grace Debney and Agadans on a 12 after the initial round of jumping. Those who don't qualify for the jump-off ranked according to faults and time in this initial round for the distribution of prize money and the distribution of world ranking points. So two-time US World Cup finalist Kristen van der Veen is our next to go. Kristen really chased the World Cup last year. Looks to be doing the same again this year. She's a career winner of World Cup as well, taking the victory at the leg at Live Oak in Ocala, Florida, which will be the final North American League leg this year. Kristen with bull runs risen. Now, if Kristen can make it through to the jump-off, even going first, she could be a real challenger because she is very, very fast. Just a hard rub there coming down at the end of the line. Again, it's just about now making sure that the horse is really attentive to these top rails and really attentive to Kristen's hands about where she wants to be on the ground for each jump, because they just rolled on a little bit at that green one and it ended up with the horse just lightly tapping off it. And there's not too many fences on this course that'll take, you know, that sort of abuse. Your luck only lasts so long. They're jumping much cleaner now. That's the curse of the commentator. And it's a very tough line. We saw it in the speed where we had a very, very similar line. There's something about just going directly away from that end of the arena. Time could be an issue here in the first round as well. 77 seconds the time allowed. We're into play. So it's going to be a couple for time, 4 for jumping and 3 for time for Kristen van der Veen and bull runs risen.
Going to stay with US riders for a little while, in fact, with Cosmona next. This owned by Antonio Morani. Giovanni Rinaldi is the ride. She's the rider and had a very good run over.
Giovanna Rinaldi is our next to go. Giovanna with Anton Morano's Cosmona. Cosmona and Giovanna. That's just Kristen leaving the ring. Giovanna and Cosmona were 5-star Grand Prix winners at Spruce Meadows this summer, helping Giovanna up into the world's top 250. Nations Cup team rider for the US at the Masters at Spruce Meadows in September, and also in the spring at Jalapa in Mexico for the first of the 3 legs of the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup series. So Giovanna sets out in a real nice pace. Just see, making the adjustment of line down there, and it's a long enough related distance that you can feel comfortable in your plan. If you need to make that adjustment, that there's time to get the horse forward or back to make up the difference in the adjustment of line you had to make. In a shorter distance, you might not have got away with that, and you might have just had to stay going on the line you were on and then tidy it up afterwards on the next turn. So, clear to here, pushing away from the in gate and actually just stays tight in around the last on the turn there, and that might be a very, very good route. Unlucky there coming out of the double. And it looked like a fault in a way that kind of started out over the horses' heads, because they did really reach over that, and I think that just left them a shade wrong going up to the double. It's just inside the time, 76.14. It's just the 4 faults. Giovanna Rinaldi and Cosmona are our leaders at the moment until we get our first clear round.
That first clear we're waiting for, and it could well come from the next. It's a very experienced man who's represented the USA at the Pan American Games, and he got a team bronze medal there. He's been a Nations Cup team member on several occasions, including at the Nations Cup.
So nice round from Giovanna Rinaldi and Cosmona. Breakout star of the 5-star tour at Spruce Meadows this year. Let's see what this man can do. He's been a World Cup finalist, twice a winner of World Cup legs here in North America, Nations Cup rider, and a bronze medalist with the US team at the Pan American Games in Lima, Peru. It's Alex Granato. Alex for the USA with Helios van der Neusehoeve. And Helios, interestingly, his choice for the welcome, having ridden Carl Chen in the speed. But again, and it being Breeders' Cup weekend, this is a more useful idea than usual. But the idea of the rider's job or the trainer's job is just like the trainer in thoroughbred racing, choosing the right program to peak at the selected target. And of course the selected target is Saturday night. Carl Chen might still be Alex's ride for that class, and going through the speed legs might just be the preparation that Carl Chen likes and appreciates, whereas this horse Helios, slightly less experienced. This would be a good learning experience for Alex and Helios. It'll tell Alex an awful lot about the horse and what he could aim for as his major target over the next few months, because you know the opportunity that these shows present to jump some of the best designer in the world's courses. If you look at our legs of the World Cup so far, we had Olaf Pedersen Jr. designing in Sacramento, and Ollie was going to be the designer for the World Cup finals in Las Vegas, Nevada, that we sadly lost in COVID year 2020. We had Bernardo Costa Cabral of Portugal designing at Washington last week, and Bernardo is going to be the designer for Omaha this spring coming. And Guilherme Jorge, Guilherme, who's already been over in Western Europe designing at Helsinki on the Winter World Cup, and of course the Olympic designer in 2016. Alex Granato comes home with 4 down, including the last 16 jumping falls for Alex and Helios.
And 4 faults is the best score from Giovanna Rinaldi and Cosmona. Devin Ryan is a former winner of the Grand Prix at the National Horse Show. Teams at World Championships.
So a little bit of a rueful look from Alex Granato as he heads out of the ring, and we turn our attention to a horse and rider combination that have been on the podium at the World Cup finals. They've been on the podium as world team gold medalists for the USA as well. Devin Ryan and Eddie Blue. Devin, a career winner of the Grand Prix class at the National Horse Show. Eddie Blue, astoundingly, Eddie is still just 13 years old. That breakout win in the American Gold Cup came in, what, 2018? 2017. This year, Eddie, third at Upperville, second just a couple of weeks ago at Greenwich, and third in the 5-star Hampton Classic Grand Prix. The Hamptons stepping up their main tour to 5-star this year and bringing in a 2-star tour as well of international jumpers. Devin just off the podium last week in Washington as well for a 4th place finish. Fair goes to him as well. He had a crack at the Puissance at Washington, one of the few Puissance remaining in the Americas. It's that skinny black rail coming on towards home. The time very, very comfortable, but this is a horse above and beyond. 74.39 on the clock, and clear round number 1, Devin Ryan and Eddie Blue. So he alone is in the lead at the moment. If we get any further clears, then we have a jump off. As I say, we would expect almost double digits of clears in our $73,800 international welcome stake here at the National Horse Show. A beautiful round of jumping there from the Sirocco Blue horse, Eddie Blue and Devin Ryan. Well, US Olympian Will Simpson goes next. A prompt start from Will as he rides Chaco P, a Chaco Blue horse. Will, who rode for the USA at the Hong Kong equestrian events of the Beijing Games in 2008. Many times a World Cup finalist for the USA as well. You could see him there just working to try and get Chaco P back to him. You can see him sitting up, raising the hands a couple of times during the triple combination, but the horse just got that little bit faster than Will needed and just jumped at rather than over that final rail. You know, we're going to go up to meter 60 on Saturday night, but even at meter 50, there's very little margin left here for any error, any untidiness. Sort of crabs at that jump as well, because he started his approach right up there beside number 3 or number 2, and ends up just sort of coming at the angle down to that. So then he has got a longer run back, and Chaco P again just gets into his hand a little bit at that plank topped meter 50 vertical. So Will finishes on 8 in 75.15. That goes into 4th. Devon Ryan leads on a clear. Giovanna Rinaldi 4 faults in 2nd. Kristen van der Veen 7 faults in 3rd, and 8 faults for Will Simpson in current 4th.
He's also been a Longines World Cup winner. Dijon Z is for Switzerland's Bert Manley.
Bert Manley is our next to go. Dijon Terdun. Bert, 3-time Swiss Olympian, based here in the US, where he works with Katie Dynan's program. Bert, World Cup champion. Sends Dijon Terdun absolutely soaring out over that first on course. It's not often you see Bert looking like he's going fast. He's just moving this horse, a Diamant de Saint-Méry horse, on a little bit. Jumps the water tray. It's a nice swing out now to this oxer. Lands, you can see his head and eyes already clocked over, looking for his line to the Taylor Harris. I think they've cracked the line as well. We saw some of the early ones, maybe a little bit concerned about the time. Just so close into the last. Bert rides a really nice line. Just out a little bit wider. He knew exactly where he wanted to be, to the inch in this ring at the Alltech Arena. And the time, so good, 73.01, fastest of anyone. It's 4 faults. Bert Manley goes into 2nd place. And it has the potential to be a well-rewarded round, because it's difficult to foresee too many people being faster than that, unless we end up with very few clears, in which case somebody who has an early rail at 1 or 2 might very well turn on the pace and try and go for a speedy 4 to try and pick up a prize check. But at the moment, Bert Manley, I think, is going to stay for quite a while as our fastest 4-faulter, and we'll see how valuable that remains. Edocenta is the ride for Charlotte Jacobs, who comes forward now. Charlotte riding for North Star. Charlotte's family, of course, the hosts previously of a World Cup leg at their Deerage farm. So Charlotte's uncle, Charlie, many times a World Cup finalist for the United States of America, and her father, Louis, has been a championship rider and top-level rider for the USA in the past as well. Great equestrian background. Spent summer in Europe, based out of Greg Broderick's yard in Ireland, producing a lot of young horses. Actually qualified up through the Irish system to ride a young horse in the International Young Horses at the Dublin Horse Show. Just gets a little bit lucky there at the B element, but sometimes you need luck on your side. Charlotte not long back with her string of horses, probably only about 3-4 weeks since she flew them all back from Europe. So Mum and Dad appreciate being able to see her in real life a little bit more than when she was in Europe. Now that B element comes up once again in the Longines. And again, you get this sense that Charlotte turned out of the corner where she thought she was. She looked at the fence, she went, that's not where I expected it to be. Just had to sit up and balance coming into that skinny black fence. And that is the nature of this ring. I say it every year I'm here. I've been lucky enough to come here since about 2015 and see this ring, but there isn't a straight edge out there. So it's very, very difficult to judge. You turn away from the boards and suddenly you go, this isn't where I thought I was going to be at all. It really does, you know, it's a bit mind-bending, the curvature all the way around this ring. So Charlotte is on 4 faults, slower than Giovanna Rinaldi, so goes into 4th place. Time of 76.15, actually only 1/100th slower than Giovanna. World Championship combination this year, Jos Verlooy and Igor. Jos, who's got the Royal at Toronto next week and thinking about going to Las Vegas as well to really try and rack up the World Cup points on his trip out here to North America. He's unfortunately just going to have the Phelps Media Group down at number 2. The Belgian individual and team medalist at championships over the last few years, has twice been a top 5 finisher at World Cup finals. Igor by Emerald. We're going to have a couple of Emeralds in the field, not least McLean Ward's ride, Ilias. So it ends up being 2 down for Jos and his top horse Igor here in the welcome. Belgian rider will go into 7th place as things currently stand here in our international welcome. Still just the 1 clear from US Championship medalist Devon Ryan.
Twice in her career, she's been a team gold medalist at North American Youth Championships. This is 262 Vivaldi Dupiel for Eilish Cunniff of the USA.
So Eilish Cunniff, podium in a Grand Prix in Michigan this summer, was 3rd at the World Cup qualifier at Fort Worth, Texas last year with this horse Vivaldi Dupiel. Since then, Fort Worth and Texas have been awarded the rights to hold the finals of the World Cup Series in the spring of 2026. So it'll be one of the shortest breaks between US finals, with Omaha this spring of 23, and then 2026 going to be Texas. It's a shame just not quite getting that back bar there with the water tray underneath at the top of the ring. Boots out that one, unfortunately. That's a little bit more a plumb error rather than just bad luck. So very quickly on 8 faults for Eilish and Vivaldi. And again, it's another very, very good horse going by the wayside here in the welcome when you look at Jos Verlooy and Igor on that same score. And clean out over the metre 50 plank to round up the track, but 77.64 on the clock means it's 8 for jumping and 1 for time, 9 in all for Eilish, and that'll go into 8th place.
Staying with US riders.
1-0, 1 clear, 3 on 4, then 7 faults is in 5th for Kristen van der Veen, then 2 on 8, and then the 9 faults we've just seen for Eilish Cunliffe. That's the makeup of our top 8 so far.
Riding Tikas, a great horse for Margie Goldstein-Engel of the USA.
Top 10 here last year, ended up being top 5 at Fort Worth as well, picking up good World Cup points over the course of the winter. Margie Goldstein-Engel, Margie a 17-time World Cup finalist and US Olympian. It was a fantastic night a few years ago when Margie took victory in the WEF finale Grand Prix, the Week 12 Grand Prix, the $500,000. You know, ranked just outside the world's top 50 at the moment. She can be counted on for a good result several times this season. It's not going to be tonight, but it could easily be Saturday night, especially with Dikas here for her. But that Phelps at the top of the ring as well, just proving a little bit problematic. And I think it's because there's nothing to prepare you for it, because quite often in this ring you would start with a related distance. You'd start with a line 1, 2, and then maybe pick up a fence like that. Whereas here you're just going across the ring 1, you're trying to find your way back 2, and again it comes down to that internal orientation in this ring. So you haven't by that stage necessarily got your eye in terribly well, and you're not sure. You're trying to watch other rounds to see how close do I need to be around that skinny black fence, or do I go out to the wall? What is the best route out to number 2? And you only have 1 fence under your belt at that stage. 74 on the clock, and with the 4 faults it goes just behind Beat Manley. As we said, Beat Manley remains our fastest 4 faulter, and that is at the moment by 1.6 seconds. So it's quite a considerable margin that Beat is faster than everyone else. So you see that, actually, interestingly, Dikas, when you see it in replay, just looked like he didn't quite understand at the moment. He just jumped a little bit upside down, just flinging his front legs at the top rail. So Zaina Rizvi, the defending Maclay champion. So we were saying earlier on, Zaina jumped the International Jumper Tour here last year, as well as riding through the Maclay series. Went to the Youth Nations Cup finals for the United States of America this year. Zaina rode her first 5-star classes in the sport this summer as well. It was great to have 5-star Nations Cup jumping, 5-star World Cup jumping last week at Washington, but we're here at 4-star. Minimum of 4-star now is the standard for the North American League, which has really helped raise the standard and help make the Americans even more competitive at the World Cup finals. But when it comes to Saturday night's class, there isn't going to be a huge amount of difference between the technical standard that Guilherme Jorge is designing here at 4-star World Cup to what Bernardo had to play with last week at 5-star World Cup. One of the things that did happen, of course, last week with the 5-star and the AA world ranking points and the significant 5-star prize money was that we saw an incredible field of horses as well as riders. Zaina Rizvi, the young rider, comes home with 2 down. It is 8 jumping faults for Zaina and Exquise Dupachy.
Another US rider is Molly Ashcawley. Now, she's had some great results through the season. She's been a Grand Prix winner here in Kentucky, winner in Upperville, and a very good run of form in Old Salem at New York as well. Top 10 in
So Molly Ashcawley and Cappuccino. Molly and Cappuccino were Grand Prix winners here in the Horse Park this summer on the Split Rock Jumping Tour. And took a good result in the Longines Cup competition at the Hampton Classic last year. Molly, who's been a two-time American Invitational winner. She's won the Devon Grand Prix. She's won the Longines Grand Prix of Ireland at Dublin in the past. And here in the US, had a great victory a couple of years ago at Old Salem Farm in the American Gold Cup when it was there and when it was the World Cup qualifier. So Devon Ryan is our only clear at the moment. Could it be former Gold Cup winner versus former Gold Cup winner? Molly going the right way about this. Cappuccino getting right up in the air and just has to be careful that that exuberance doesn't cost her distance, particularly on this line, because if the horse hangs back towards the in-gate at all, then this idea of getting too high in the air, wasting time in the air, could leave them short here by the end of the line, but it doesn't prove a problem. The time looks very, very good as well. 77 seconds the time allowed. Molly jumps the neutrino. 1 to go. It's got the plank on top. It's got a little bit of a sting in the tail. And she's into time. 77.95. I didn't think it would take her that long to get down the final line. It's clear for jumping, but 1 for time for Molly Ashcawley and Cappuccino.
Good enough for second place at this stage. A man who's had 5-star Grand Prix podium placings over European competition over the last couple of years, with some very strong Grand Prix results through 2022 as well. Luis Francisco de Azevedo, right?
Luis Francisco de Azevedo is our next to go. Luis, who's the World Games rider for Brazil in 2018. He was actually runner-up as well in that WEF 12 Grand Prix we were talking about, the finale to the Winter Equestrian Festival. What a good speed class on the first day of the Longines Hampton Classic a few years ago as well. Luis Francisco de Azevedo and Nashville by Diamant Semi. At least the second Diamant horse we've seen here in the International Jumper Welcome. Just moments ago, of course, Molly Ashcawley gave us our second clear over the fences. Only 2 have cleared every fence on course, but Molly outside that time allowed of 77 seconds, so we still don't have a jump off on our hands. And we're not a million miles away from halfway through the starting draw of our welcome. There's still plenty more stars of the sport to see. Daniel Blumen, McLean Ward, Rodrigo Pessoa still to come, Hunter Holloway, Shane Sweetnam, Daniel Coyle, amongst others. But we do have a jump off. Luis Francisco de Azevedo and Nashville put it all together, and that is clear round number 2, and that guarantees us a jump off over the short course to decide tonight's International Welcome Stakes. Luis Francisco de Azevedo will go head-to-head with Devon Ryan so far, and we'll see how many more join them in our $73,800 class.
A good run of form, winner of a Grand Prix in Michigan through the summer months, and in the early part of the summer, 5th in the 4-star Grand Prix at Upperville. Frazier is a 12-year-old by Carambole for the USA's Sam Schaefer.
Sam Schaefer. Next to go, Samantha with Bonvie LLC's Frazier. Samantha, who is a well-placed finisher, top 5 in the Grand Prix at Upperville in Virginia, America's oldest horse show this summer. so Sam's horse just ended up flattening out a little bit in the 2 stride. Actually had a good attempt at the 3rd element, made a much better shape at it, but just because they were out of gear, as it were, there wasn't a lot they could do playing with the meter 50 standard. So 2 down in quick succession in the triple line for Samantha. And clears the last. 77.22 on the clock means it's going to be 8 for jumping and 1 for time for Sam Schaefer and Frazier. And well, in some of the Grand Prix at Michigan this summer, but going to be 9 here for them. And of our 9 falters, the fastest of the 2. Eilish Cunniff in 13th, Sam Schaefer in 12th.
He's been previous podium placing in World Cup qualifiers through his career. He rides the action breaker side 9-year-old Idol H&H. For the USA, Andrew Wells.
Idol H&H, Andrew Wells. The Itasca Group and Evergreen Stables in the co-ownership of this action breaker 9-year-old for Andrew Wells. Andrew had a very good run through the World Cup season a few years ago with a horse called Primo Troy. Just spotting there, these really puts himself on the angle across that first. Maybe just a little bit conscious that this horse, in terms of foot speed, might struggle with the 77 seconds based on what Andrew's seen so far. So he's just looking to be a little bit more economic, a little bit more prompt. Nicely done through there, well ridden. Unfortunately, moments later just kind of launches themselves at that big square oxer. And probably just the water tray underneath was the difference. It just made the horse look down and focus downwards. A couple of millimeters that make the difference. Time's okay, 73.76. It is just that 1 down with 4 faults. Bert Manley still faster though, 3/4 of a second faster than that. Bert Manley in 4th and Andrew Wells in 5th. The reason Bert is in 4th is because we have the 2 clear rounds and we have the time fault for Molly Ash-Corley.
Medalist at Bolivarian Games and already through 2022 a Grand Prix winner. Riding Norsje van der Windheuvel for Colombia, Mark Blumen.
So already a winner, Mark Blumen. Mark for Colombia with over the top stables Noortje van der Windheuvel. 9-year-old by Farfelu de Meuse. Mark was the 2-star Grand Prix winner of the 2-star, 3-star show at Greenwich, Connecticut. Been a Nations Cup rider for Colombia and been a medalist at the Bolivarian Games down in South America. Riding his role as our only international jumper winner so far, Mark Blumen is looking very, very comfortable here in the ring. Of course, different horse this time around in the shape of Noortje. Longines B element goes A couple of people playing the schedule as well. They could ride 2 horses if they wished in the earlier class and not ride the welcome. And we've seen some do that. Single rail down, 73.11 for Mark Blumen. They're getting closer to Bert Manley, but they're still 0.1 of a second slower. Mark Blumen and Nurcha go into 5th. Bert Manley still in 4th.
Brazil represented in the jump off. Can we get one through from Egypt in the form of Niall Nasser and Igor van der Wittemore? Niall's been a big winner in 4-star competition through the year. Championship medalist, Olympian, and 3 times Longines World Cup finalist.
The 2021 Greenwich Grand Prix winner, having talked about that class quite a bit, this combination, Niall Nasser and Igor van der Wittemore, also won the Nations Cup Grand Prix of St. Gallen before going to the Olympic Games to represent Egypt. Niall Nasser and Igor van der Wittemore. This is the first time we've seen Niall here at the show. He didn't ride in the speed. Eight times a World Cup qualifier winner here in North America. Niall, who's been working hard, his lockdown project was to produce the Jumper app, JUMPR, that's being used more and more by people in jobs like mine and trainers and coaches, just to look up the stats and the way the sport is going, focusing in on the results of every horse, every class in the sport. So he just had drifted out a little bit left of centre. He ended up jumping that on the angle, touched the front rail of the horses' heads, but still clean so far. The Cooper van der Heffink bred Igor van der Wittemore should find this class meter 50 relatively easy, and does so. 72.70 Egypt are represented in our jump off. Clear round number 3 is for Niall Nasser. Yeah, 2 absolutely world-class horses in there. Not doing down the 9-year-old Nashville and Luis Francisco de Azevedo, but you've got Eddie Blue, Devon Ryan, World Championship gold medalist with the US team, Niall Nasser and Igor van der Wittemore, Nations Cup Grand Prix winner at St. Gallen, a tough one as well at St. Gallen before going on to the Olympic Games. That is the calibre of what is jumping clear over this welcome track. On to Skylar Riley, Skylar and Robin de Pontoul. Skylar linked up very, very quickly with this horse. They set up a great relationship when she took on the ride, putting her through in quick succession after she took over the ride to a couple of Grand Prix podiums and then the Nations Cup finals for the United States of America in Barcelona. Skylar, who picked up World Cup points here last year after a good result at Washington. It does stay. You can just hear the knock on the back rail rattling right around this Alltech arena. Robin, 17 years young, Robin de Pontoul. One of the things about the Sol Francais horses is in the main they do have wonderfully long careers. So the first in a while we've seen have the horses' heads. We've seen a few maybe get in trouble there, and maybe it has come out and been shown at the Longines B element, but the plank goes at the last as well, making it 8 falls since 74 for Skylar Riley and Robin de Pontoul here in the welcome.
The Longines World Cup qualifier of Lexington, McLean Ward finished as the runner-up. He's been a team gold and silver medalist at Olympics and at World Championships, an individual and team gold medalist at Pan American Games. Riding Ilias, this the stallion by Emerald. For the USA, McLean Ward.
One of the top-ranked riders in the world, and at our show here, the National Horse Show, McLean Ward. very little in the world, either here in the United States or right around the world in terms of major Grand Prix, that this man hasn't won. McLean and Ilias by Emerald, looking to be clear round number 4 here in the welcome. So just an interruption to time there, with the problems inside the triple combination. Having had the B down, they weren't in a good spot to try and jump the C. So McLean pulls away. So it's 4 faults for having the B element down, 4 faults for refusing the C element. There's also 6 seconds added into the time to represent the interrupted time. And of course, to be free of further penalty, they need to clear everything again. And in fact, he will have the C element down, so that puts him on 12 jumping faults. It's coming apart a little bit, unfortunately, for Ilias and McLean. Yeah, I'm not super surprised to see him just apply the brake and call it a day. Retiring on course here, McLean, Ward and Ilias.
So 3 clear rounds, Devin Ryan giving us the first, followed by Luis Francisco Diaz-Vedo and Niall Nasser. Daniel Coyle's been part of winning Nations Cup teams through the year. Competed at the World Championships in Denmark and European Championships going back to 2021.
So a tough night for McLean, but of course the show far from over. Big international class tomorrow night and the World Cup on Saturday night here at the 139th National Horse Show. Daniel Coyle goes next, World Championship rider this year for Ireland. Daniel, 3 times a World Cup qualifier winner here in North America, winning T-Bird in Langley, British Columbia, Deer Ridge in Wellington, Florida, and Live Oak in Ocala, Florida in his career. Won the big Nations Cup Grand Prix at Rotterdam this year, and he won this very class last week at Washington with a horse called Legacy. Tonight, Daniel rides his own and Ariel Granger's Ivory TCS. Devin Ryan, Luis Diaz-Vedo, Niall Nasser are clear rounds so far. So rides quite forward through the triple combination, and then you just see, if you watch that whole line, you see Daniel sit up, balance the horse, he changes the pace back and then attacks again at the big Oxer. Unfortunately, he has the back rail off the Oxer, which follows, setting him up for the line down to Taylor Harris. So Daniel's going to be on a minimum of 4. You can see him picking up the pace a little bit as well. Daniel knows that he's got the way of riding. He's usually on a horse that can have a turn of speed. His pole came quite late in the course, but now he'll be laser focused in on Beat Manley's time of 73.01 to see if he can come home faster than that on 4 faults, and he does so. 72.81 with the 4 faults. Daniel Coyle goes top 5, 5th place.
For Ivory TCS, and Daniel Coyle goes into 5th place. 3 clear rounds. Molly Ash-Corley then sitting in 4th with the single time fault, and Daniel Coyle, the fastest of the 4s, now in 5th. Australia is next, and it's in the form of Rowan Willis, with his own blue movie, represented Australia at the World Championships.
So Rowan Willis, Blue Movie next to go. Rowan and Blue Movie, been Nations Cup Grand Prix winners here in North America. Very good results over a couple of years in the Spruce Meadows Masters. He finished 4th on the North American League of World Cup Jumping last year. Rowan based out of Ocala, Florida. Actually, I was just talking to his great mate Scotty Keach down there in Florida over the last couple of days, and he said that Rowan he had a a dental problem of his own. He had a real toothache during Washington, and he actually thought it had kind of cleared up and he'd be able to focus in on the job, but then it kind of came back on World Cup day and it was a little bit too late to do anything about it. So hopefully, everything's a little bit more going his way this week. Now, interestingly, this is the sort of behavior we're used to from Blue Movie, really going. He had them going quite calmly in Washington. We're used to them charging the start. We're used to them going in this really all-out gung-ho way. And they ended up in the World Cup night, I think it was 3 down. So I think Rowan has sort of gone back to plan A. If you can get around this course with just the single rail down, then they're on the upward slope. And Rowan will know what to do for World Cup here on Saturday. Not the first to have that B element down at the Longines at the end of the line. And of course, at this sort of pace, Rowan and Blue Movie are making life a little bit more difficult for themselves, because this isn't the pace for which these distances are set. 72.69 with 8 jumping faults. 72.81 was Daniel Coyle's time a moment ago. So very fast from Rowan and Blue Movie, as you'd expect. You only have to watch them to realize that. But with 8 faults, it's a little bit further down the order than Rowan was perhaps expecting.
Carlito's Way is the ride for Alexa Pessoa of the USA.
So Alexa and Carlito's Way next to go. Top 10 in the 2-star Grand Prix at Global's London this year. Alexa jumping a lot of European shows this summer. Nocker, Dinar, Valkenswaard. Carlito's Way, another one by Casal. We've seen a few of them amongst tonight's starting field. Clear the triple combination line. Got it. These 2 oxers are being pretty influential. The one after the triple and this one, and the front rail goes for Alexa Pessoa, Carlito's Way. And again, it's all just about riding that rollback turn. Your relationship between all the fences, the boards, the side of the ring. Just where you end up placing the horse and where you end up on that last stride before the takeoff moment. Comfortable on the clock. Just the last goes as well, so it was going to be just the 4, but it is going to be 8 for Alexa and Carlito's Way, and at a time of 74 it sits outside the top dozen. It's actually exactly the same time as Skylar Riley, so equal 15th for the pair.
It's the ride of Erin Vale. Many international wins through 2022, pushing him into the world's top 100 on those Longines rankings. Erin Vale, Prescott for the USA.
2-time Washington World Cup winner, Aaron Vale. Aaron is a World Cup finalist this spring at Leipzig, and 3rd already today in the speed class. Aaron now with Prescott looks to be clear round number 4 in the International Welcome Stakes. Prescott, a very good horse for Aaron. Given him a couple of good results here just recently outdoors at the Kentucky Horse Park on the Split Rock Jumping Tour. He had an incredible summer of jumping in Tryon. Aaron's wife Mallory going incredibly well in the national amateurs as well, including here at the National Horse Show. The horse heads are down, 4 faults for Aaron, and he's not looking set to be amongst our fastest 4 faults. 4 faults covers between 5th and 11th on the ranking at the moment, and this will go in amongst them. 4 faults in 72.85 for Aaron Vale and Prescott. That's going to go just behind Daniel Coyle. Actually beats Beat Manley by 0.16 of a second. Daniel Coyle, though, a little bit faster by 0.04 of a second. So Aaron Vale actually going on a really good pace around this course. And 3rd in the speed earlier on. Don't rule him out. If he makes it into a jump off this week, he could be very, very competitive. Nick De La Joyo is our next to go. Nick, who is 5th already this today here at the National Horse Show. Nick and Cornets Cambridge by Balou de Reventon. Nick, who rode on the US Nations Cup team at the Masters in Spruce Meadows in September. Just in a little bit of trouble going in here, you would have thought. Just the horse screwing a little bit through his back over the A element, but actually gets the job done. Can they jump this Oxer as well? All looking good at the moment for Nick De La Joyo, but yeah, nearly every fence in this track has been down at some stage or another, and this line has been amongst the toughest. Bows the line a little bit up to the Longines double. It works. 60 odd seconds as he goes past the Phelps Media Group as well. 17 seconds to get home. And there we are. Cornets Cambridge and Nick De La Joyo are clear. That is clear round number 4, giving us 2 for the US so far in the jump off here of our International Welcome Stakes.
Will we get one from Colombia? And it's the championship rider for Colombia, Roberto Terán now, Des Uchtov.
Roberto Terán, Nations Cup Finals rider, championship rider for Colombia. Roberto, who went to the Nations Cup show in Rome this year at Piazza di Siena. Another couple of shows of a summer season jumping in Europe. A lot of these top riders for every nation, especially when the worlds are in Europe, looking to get some good European 5-star shows under their belts in preparation for a major championships like that. Piazza di Siena, the Rome Nations Cup's a really good show to get into. Of course, you need to be on your nation's team or have an individual invite, but you know, wonderful grass arena right in the center of Rome, big crowds, very looky in terms of the materials, a great designer in Uliano Vezzani as well. You know, it's a championship preparation show for a horse that needs to just pick up a little bit of experience, grow up a little bit. It is a very, very good one. But you could say that about nearly all of the major 5-star Nations Cup shows anywhere in the world. Roberto Terán and Des Uchtov coming home with the 4 faults. Just the C element of the triple combination down early on in their round. So the 4 for Des Uchtov and Roberto Terán Terfour in a time of 75.50. Oh, in fact, the last goes as well. My apologies, I'd looked away. 8 jumping faults for Roberto and Desutov. That puts them outside the top 20.
He's a world-class event rider at championship level now. We're very much focused, though, on show jumping with the top 5-star placings through the year, including at Bruce Meadows.
Captain Brian Cannan. Captain Brian riding for the United States of America now, with his own and his parents-in-law, Bob and Christine Stiller's Armic by Armitage. Brian who still carries his rank from his career in the Irish Army Equitation School. I think it's easy to think when you look at his international record that he was an eventer turned show jumper. In fact, just showing his versatility, he was a show jumper who, when he arrived at the Irish Army Equitation School, they were focused in on eventing, and therefore his successes in eventing show incredible versatility as an athlete in our sport. But towards the end of his career, and then when he left the Army, got back into pure show jumping, put together a wonderful string of horses and started becoming a real regular on Irish Nations Cup teams at the very, very top level as well. Armic, another one to just have the back rail off that oxer up at the top end of the ring after the triple combination. Yes, a little bit of Brian saying, Armic, you know better than this, behave, listen to me. And knowing, you know, even though there are only 4 clears, there's so many 4-faulters, if you're not absolutely racing on a 4, you're probably not going to take a big prize check tonight. And also, a horse as experienced as Armic, Brian doesn't necessarily need to ride for that. He needs to ride to get the horse he wants for Saturday night. And again, not just getting the ride he wants, he pulls up, he retires.
Ireland now, Shane Sweetnam's challenge with Gizmo partners James Cruise. He's been a team gold medalist at European Championships, represented Ireland on various championship teams, and a winning Nations Cup rider through the year. Just a few weeks ago, with this horse, they took victory in the 5-star American Gold Cup Grand Prix. James Cruise for Ireland, Shane Sweetnam.
James Cruise and Shane Sweetnam, Irish sport horse by Cannon out of a cruising mare. Shane and Gizmo, as he's known, were the American Gold Cup winners this summer. Jumped on the Nations Cup team at Thunderbird, jumped on the Nations Cup team in Ireland this year, and in the Aga Khan at Dublin, and ended up on the Grand Prix 5-star podium at Dublin as well together. Very, very impressive 9-year-old horse. Could it possibly be that, you know, maybe on the same trajectory, 5-star Grand Prix winner in his 9-year-old year, as the horse that is now our Olympic champion of the sport, Explosion, for Ben Mayer. So Shane, who rode Alejandro last week in the World Cup, swaps Ale out for James Cruise this week. Still has the young out of the blue SCF with him as his kind of his speed horse, his second horse here. Shane's been based here in the US for a very long time, but a great supporter of the Irish team, and makes a lot of trips to Europe each year with his string of horses to support that team and ride and represent the team at Nations Cups and Championships. And look at that, just so easy. Shane Sweetnam and James Cruise just eat up this course, no problems at all. Clear round number 5 is for Shane and James Cruise. It's shaping up to be a very, very good jump off here, as some real top name horses and riders making it through to the short course in the welcome. So on to Kansas's Hunter Holloway with Pepita Conspita. 11-year-old mare owned by Hayes Investment Corporation. Hunter out of Kansas was a 5-star Grand Prix winner at Saugerties this year with this horse on the US Nations Cup team at T-Bird as well. And Hunter and Pepita were runners-up last week in the Welcome at Washington. So this very class, they made it into the jump-off and they went all the way, just breathing down the neck of eventual winner Daniel Coyle. Well, there won't be a podium in the Welcome this week, unfortunately, for Pepita Conspita, but will the balance shift? Might they be podium finishers in the World Cup on Saturday night? Rare to see the first part of the triple combination go the way this competition has broken down. Hunter, I think, was looking a little bit at that fastest four-faulter. Daniel Coyle, last week's Welcome winner, 72.81, but it comes apart a little bit with 2 down on the horsehead to Longines double line. So sitting on 12. Look at the time, 73.21. Probably without the rails on the horse's heads line, if she'd kept up that pace, she would have comfortably been faster than Daniel Coyle with the 4, but with 12 faults, it's a long way back for Hunter Holloway and Pepita Conspita.
He's been a big winner here in the past as well, twice an Olympian World Championship contender as well. Riding Ladriano Z for Israel, Daniel Blumen.
So Colombian Olympian, riding for Israel the last few years, including to the World Championships in 2018, and he helped Israel qualify for the Tokyo Olympic Games. Daniel Blumen. Daniel with Ladriano Z. Daniel consistently one of the highest ranked riders in the world, and it helps get him the invitations to some of those big shows. He's picked up excellent results at the likes of Windsor. He's been the Nations Cup Grand Prix winner at Rome at Piazza di Siena. And of course, rarely a season goes past without him taking it one or more of the Grand Prix, especially the 5-star Grand Prix at the Winter Equestrian Festival. Adriano and Daniel, again, just a horse and rider combination. They absolutely eat up this course. That is a very, very comfortable clear there. Clear round number 6. Don't expect it to look that easy, because Daniel is really going to try with Ladriano when it comes to jumping against the clock over the short course. You could have just seen our winner there, because they come back in the order in which they qualify as well. And 6th in this jump off so far is a very, very good place to be for Daniel Blumen. So on course, we have our next to go, Heather Caristo-Williams. Heather and Marziano, MVF for the USA. 6 clears currently qualified for the jump-off here in our welcome. And unfortunately, Heather's not going to join them. You could see she felt that coming. A little bit similar to what happened to McLean Ward earlier on at the BC element of the triple combination. Get that reset. We'll just see whether Heather just feels that the horse might have just taken a little bit of a scare in the ring. She might just consider her options and think about maybe popping number 1 or another fence on course that she's already cleared and electing to retire. But we're just getting everything set. We've got the tape up between the A and B element to just make sure that the distance remains absolutely bob on. Ring crew look happy. The judges will give the bell again. I'll see what Heather decides with Marciano. Yeah, just going to take a courtesy jump and retire. So 6 more to see in the initial round of the $73,800 international welcome stakes.
Last clear coming from Daniel Blumen and Ladriano. Just 6 that remain, 6 left to see. Summer Hill's the first of those, producing horses so well, not only in the show jumping ring, but in the hunter ring as well. Wins this year through the Wellington season and here in Lexington. This is her own and Andrea Simpson's La Belle SCF, the USA's Summer Hill.
Summer Hill's are next to go. La Belle SCF. Co-owns with Andrea Simpson, another one with the Spy Coast Farm Suffolk, so bred right here next door to the horse park at the Spy Coast Farm operation. La Belle SCF, 11-year-old Belgian warm blood stud book horse by Dictator van der Bolsandhoven. Element down in the triple combination for Summer, and the front rail off this Oxer as well. So as I say, 4 faults, you're still in the hunt. If you can be fast, you can be up with Daniel Coyle, Aaron Vale, 8th, 9th. If you're steady, Charlotte Jacobs, Giovanni Rinaldi, 14th, 15th. Clear out over the last, it's a couple of time penalties as well. 8 for jumping, 2 for time for Summer Hill and La Belle SCF.
8 jumping 2 times, 78.1710 there, 10 for Summer Hill and La Belle SCF. Down to the final 5 and 1 clear already for Brazil. We could certainly make it 2 now with former world number 1, 3-time Longines World Cup final winner and Olympic gold medalist in his career as well. Riding quick step.
World champion, Olympic champion, 3-time World Cup champion, Rodrigo Pessoa. Rodrigo with quick step tonight for Brazil. You just look at the pace that Rodrigo sets, you know, so experienced in the sport. He knows exactly where he needs to be on this horse to be in the mix, and in the mix in 2 ways as well. He's not only got the pace that he's going to feel comfortable about giving him the best opportunity to jump a clear from, but he's also quite conscious, I'm sure, that if he has an unlucky rail, he wants to be pacey enough that he's still going to get a decent amount of world ranking points, a decent amount of money out of the prize fund as well. And that means being, you know, relatively fast when you take Daniel Coyle, Aaron Vale and Bert Manley's fast 4 falters. Notwithstanding that Luis Francisco de Azevedo with his clear is faster than anyone else over the course, with 71 on his clock. Rodrigo in quick step, leaving them all standing at the moment. No, the rail goes, so now it's the time is going to come into play, and all the time Rodrigo's had that in the back of his pocket. 74.35, sits just 13th, just outside the money. 12th is going to pick up a prize check, but 13th won't. So Rodrigo Pessoa and Quickstep. But again, it's, you know, when you look at the spread of times, it's very, very close. You only have to be half a second behind to suddenly find yourself 4 or 5 places lower than you might have expected. Another Olympian in our field here for the welcome, Samuel Parro. Samuel with Crystal Blue by Chaco Blue. Nice clear round then for Samuel Parro and Crystal Blue. That does give us clear round number 7, and it gives us another nation as well, with Chile going forward. So 7 so far, 3 more to go. Will we end up with that double digits of clears? 1 for Ireland, 1 for the USA and 1 for Brazil to wrap up our initial round of jumping. David Blake, Kyoki next to go. David, Pine Hollow Farms, Kyoki by Kyotoki. David again, another Irish rider based over here a long time now. I saw David at both the Washington and here at the National Horse Show leg of World Cup jumping last year. This horse Kyoki has been a tremendous servant to David, with a lot of 5-star Grand Prix podiums and top 5s. He's been riding out of Pine Hollow since 2012. So 2 down on the way around there for David Blake and Kyoki. It's going to be an 8-fault round for him.
Well in the placings on that occasion. He's been an experienced campaigner, podium placings in Grand Prix competitions throughout the year, and podium placings last week in Washington. Riding Valdez to the USA, Evan Coluccio.
Evan Coluccio, Hampton Green Farms, Valdez Z by Vigo d'Arsui. Vigo d'Arsui, the horse that Philippe Lejeune rode to the World Championships here at the stadium at the Kentucky Horse Park in the World Equestrian Games back in 2010. Second week of World Cup for Evan, who in his first year of the international level of the sport took a Grand Prix victory down at the World Equestrian Center in Florida. So still on the 0 through the tricky Longines double line. Evan Coluccio and Valdez just need to be a little bit conscious of the time. 77 seconds time allowed. Molly Ashcawley was caught out earlier on, sitting just outside our 7 clears, but this looks okay. And Evan is through. Valdez Z and Evan Coluccio are clear, giving us our latest clear round, 8 so far, out of a maximum possible of 9, because just 1 remains to jump here in the initial round of our $73,800 international welcome stake.
From Brazil, but it's Santiago Labre to conclude. Championship rider at Pan American Games, World Championships and Olympic level with World Cup final appearances through his career. This is Casey for Brazil, Santiago Labre.
So Santiago Labre, last to go in the initial round, representing Brazil. Brazil already with Luis Francisco de Azevedo qualified, interestingly, with the fastest round of anyone, faults or clears. So Santiago with Mario Oñates, Casey. So it will end up being 8 coming back for the jump off, with Molly Ashcawley taking the 9th place on our ranking. With a single time fault, Daniel Coyle will be 10th, Aaron Vale 11th, Bette Manley 12th. And it will be 8 faults in all. 72.50. Interestingly, if he'd come home with the 4 faults in that time, he'd have been the fastest 4-faulter. But the 2 down going to put Santiago Labre and Casey further down. So 8 faults for the pair, are 38th and last to go in the initial round of jumping here.
12 is the course. 3 riders for the USA, then 1 each for Brazil, Egypt, Ireland, and Chile and Israel. That's the jump off that we'll look forward to in a few minutes' time.
Well, let's have a look at the results. Devon Ryan and Luis Francisco de Azevedo, Niall Nassar, Nick De La Joyo, Shane Sweetnam, Daniel Blumen were our first 6 to qualify, first 6 of 8 eventual qualifiers. Samuel Parro and Evan Coluccio. As we say, just behind them we had Molly Ashcawley with the single time fault, and then it was those fast 4 faulters, the likes of Daniel Coyle, Aaron Vale and Baird Manley taking the top 12 spots. So, as you can see, in stripping the ring, we're going to set the ring up for an 8-strong jump-off to decide tonight's world ranking welcome class here from the National Horse Show, part of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Series North American League.
eight come forward for the jump off. 6 nations represented, 3 from the USA, 1 each then from Brazil, Egypt, Ireland, Israel and Chile. And that last clear coming, of course, from the USA's Evan Coluccio. He'll have pole position. The shortened course, well, they're starting at fence number 3. Fence number 3, the horsefly togs are heading back towards the in-out gate, running down that line to 4 on the related distance to the green vertical. Then it's the first part of what was the treble combination 5A with the Lampet standard. And then it's...
So here is our first of 8 to decide the ultimate direction of tonight's International Welcome Stake. A pretty long jump-off track. Fences 3, 4, 5A, then across the ring and rolling back to what was number 1. We're jumping it backwards as a vertical. Down to number 8, which is the Taylor Harris. Then number 9, the horseheads going away from the in-gate, both 10A, 10B, so that whole tough line of 9 and 10 from the first round, and then cutting back across to the neutrino fence at number 12. Eddie Blue and Devon Ryan are going to be our first to go, setting the standard. Hopefully get a double clear from them, and I think as a combination they should tell us a lot about what the sort of winning times could look like. Very, very tough to win a jump-off from the get-go, but Devon and Eddie Blue should certainly be able, if everything goes their way, to do enough to be on the podium here tonight. Look at this, though. Straight off the leg, Eddie Blue moves into gear. Following this line, just as it was in the first round, up to number 5. Now here's new ground. How tight dare they roll back to this vertical? Eddie Blue makes a big effort over the meter 50 Taylor Harris. Now this tough line, length of the ring here at the National Horse Show. 5 coming up there. And turning back to the last, it's on the 0 score. Devon Ryan, Eddie Blue, just over 40 seconds. 41:48 is the time taken.
Time posted on the display there, setting the standard. Devon Ryan and Eddie Blue to jump off there, and well, they may be able to slice a second or two, but he's posted that clear round. All important, it certainly is. Brazil now, Luis Francisco de Azevedo chasing that down with Nashville.
So Eddie and Devon got their clear pretty early, and then for a long time they were our only clear. We got to nearly halfway through the field before we finally had a jump off on our hands when World Games rider for Brazil, Luis Francisco de Azevedo, and Nashville laid down their clear round. Nashville's just 9 years old, a Diamante Semi horse, and of note is the fact that they were faster than anyone else in the initial round of jumping. 71 seconds and some change was their time taken. But already Eddie Blue and Devon Ryan have laid down a good marker, I would feel. Clearly a naturally fast horse here, though, Nashville. Just lost the back end a little bit on the turn back. This is tighter, and they get away with it. 21 seconds over the Taylor Harris. Just slightly threw himself at that. Lewis knew he just had to trust in the luck of the gods, where he ended up going to the horses' heads. And the last goes as well, 39.78. It's a conscious amount faster. 41.48 was Devon Ryan's time. Luis Francisco de Azevedo, 39.78, with the fastest horse potentially in the class. But it is with 8 jumping faults in the jump-off. So we'll keep an eye on that Taylor Harris fence. 21 seconds for Luis Francisco. It was about 22, rising 23 for Devon Ryan, because Devon had that longer rollback turn to what was fence 1. Again, so exciting, the horses we have here, not just the riders. Niall Nassar and Igor van der Wittenbora, his Tokyo Olympic partner, his 5-star Nations Cup Grand Prix winning horse. Igor successful week in, week out on the circuit. Niall having a very good summer this year. He was a class winner with El Conde at Aachen. He had a class win, a big jump-off class at Dublin. And he's going to take an early rail here in the jump-off. So Niall Nassar and Igor will go out, and he just takes the slightly more conservative line through the Longines double on his way back to number 15. Devon Ryan did exactly the right job. He laid down a clear fast enough to put the pressure on everyone else. And that is how you win a jump off from the opening gambit. I'll have one down in the Longines double as well. It's like the horse heads line down. So Niall on 8 faults with Igor van der Wittenmorre. 8 in 45.15, so slower than Luis Francisco as well. 3 for the USA. USA leading with Devon Ryan as we go now to Nick Delajoyo. Nick was our 4th of what ended up being 8 clear rounds. He rides the Berry Group's Bally's de Reventon horse, Cornets Cambridge. Of course, the sire of this horse, Bally's de Reventon, World Championship horse for Brian Mowgray this year for the USA. Always fun to see horses that are at the top of the sport being joined by their progeny at the top end of the sport as well. This horse for Nick Delajoyo will just take the front rail off that lamp standard fence that was the opening part of the triple combination, so Devon Ryan can breathe easy again. At 41.48, you know, it's not that somebody can come in here and think about a steady clear round and maybe taking on Devon, because Devon was fast. You know, Luis Francisco de Azevedo on a very fast horse was 1.75 seconds, 1.75 faster than him. So 4 faults in 45 then for Cornets Cambridge and Nick Delajoyo. Can anyone else give us a double clear? I would suggest it's likely. I think a couple of riders might just settle in for the double clear, not trying to chase Devon Ryan's time and take home maybe a podium place. But, you know, there's a couple here. In fact, there's 4 here. There's 4 here who I think are going to challenge. It's a very good jump off. Shane Sweetenham, James Count Cruz. They absolutely could beat Devon Ryan and Eddie Blue. The question is, though, with this young horse, whether that's what Shane wants to do tonight or whether he's going to keep his powder dry for the World Cup. Just really comfortable within this pace for this pair that have gone and measured themselves against the very best of Europe as well, course designers and competition. .41.48 to beat. Shane winds up James Count Cruz, but it's going to be a shade slower. 42.25, but Shane Sweetenham and James Count Cruz go into second at the moment and should end up in a good placing here on the opening day of the show and the opening jump-off format class. So Ladriano Z Daniel Blumen. Daniel's horse for the World Championships this year in Herning. Second in the WEF 12 Grand Prix with this horse this year. Daniel quite often deceptively fast as well. This was, this was his Piazza di Siena winner, and he just looked so comfortable within his pace that it was a surprise then when he ended up blitzing the opposition time-wise, but it's going to be 4 faults here. So Daniel and Ladriano just trying to make that very tight turn back to fence one backwards, number 15 on course, and it's going to be 4 faults, 42.98, even with the horse almost grinding to a standstill over number 15. So again, he would have had Devon, but 4 faults is expensive. Devon Ryan. And Devon is guaranteed a podium finish. Shane Sweetnam has to wait and see whether his double clear is going to keep him in a podium position, as we have 2 very, very good challenges still to come. Samuel Parot and Crystal Blue, the first of those 2 challenges. And the challenge goes. The O'Donnell, the pale green fence is down so early on the track off the first distance. Remember, our leader was jumping this Taylor Harris at 21.22 seconds. Just showing how fast they are. A ring crew standing by there to make sure that pole off number 1 isn't in the line here as well. Doing a great job. So another 8 faulter in the jump off. Samuel Parot and Crystal Blue. They go around with 8 in 46.41, so they go 7th best at the moment. It is 2 clears, 2 fours, 3 on 8 in our jump off here, the welcome. And it is all down then to Evan Coluccio.
Just 1 is left to go. Still Devin Ryan leads right from the outset, but it's down to the last. Evan Coluccio with Hampton Green Farms, Valdez Z, and the USA.
So the 9-year-old Valdez Z, Evans' horse for the World Cup last week. Evans' horse that won the Grand Prix at WEC in July in Ocala, Florida. Double clear inside the time will be podium in this welcome. Evans not necessarily happy with that as an answer. He is trying. 22 seconds. He is down. Down on Devon Ryan. Probably down on Shane as well, unless he can find an absolute flying spot to the last. And the rail goes anyway. So Devon Ryan and Shane Sweetnam are guaranteed top 2. Look at this. The elbows are right. He gives the kick at the last. 4 in 41.53. He was just a shade slower than Devon. He made up a great bit of ground in the latter sector of the course, and Evan Coluccio will steer himself into 3rd. It felt time-wise, if he'd been clear, he was going to be 3rd. Actually, he picked up the pace, and with 4 faults, he's still 3rd. So a very good result for Evan Coluccio.
Second for James Cruz, Shane Sweetnam for Ireland with a clearing 42.25. The other we'll see for presentation.
So Evan Coluccio and Valdez Z going to be on the podium here tonight, standing by for awards. Let's remind ourselves of the results of our big class, this $73,800 welcome stakes. Devon Ryan will take victory for the United States of America with Eddie Blue. Shane Sweetnam second with James Kahn Cruz, Evan Coluccio and Valdez Z in third, Daniel Blumen Ladriano fourth, Nick Delajoyo fifth, Luis Francisco de Azevedo still faster than anyone else. Watch those times with Nashville. Fastest in the first round, fastest of anyone over the jump-off course. Then Niall and Samuel. Molly Ash-Corley with the single time fault in the first round. Daniel Coyle, Aaron Vale with the fast four falters. Ivory and Prescott. And then it is on over the page in the 12th place for Bert Manley of Switzerland. So those are our top 12 results. Four faults, though, was valuable all the way down to 18th in our division. So another international jumper class coming tomorrow. We'll have that with full production here, and myself, John Kyle, chatting to you as well. But of course, the whole day, every class of the National Horse Show coming to you on the website, and Clip My Horse here from the Alltech Arena at the Kentucky Horse Park. So you won't want to miss it. But let's throw it out to Andrew Pollard in the bowl as it's time for awards of the $73,800, $73,800, I can never quite get that right, International Welcome Stake.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're delighted to welcome our presentation party, consisting of Jennifer Berger, the President of the National Horse Show, William Weeks, the Chairman of the National Horse Show Committee, accompanied by Marla Holt for our presentation, and Alex Zulia, the Technical Coordinator. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the winning combination for the USA, Devin Ryan and Eddie Blue. Its runner-up position, second for Shane Sweetnam for Ireland, riding James Kahn Cruz. And for the USA, Evan Coluccio, Valdez Z. Well, before the formalities of the presentation, let's start, please, by asking you to stand and remove cover for the national anthem of the winning rider, the national anthem of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much indeed. Now we're delighted to welcome once again the President of the National Horse Show Association, Jennifer Berger, accompanied by Alex Delia, stepping forward to say congratulations to Devin Ryan and Eddie Blue. And then stepping forward, accompanied by Marla Holt, is William Weeks, Chairman of the National Horse Show Association, to present the William B. Devereux Trophy, again to Devin Ryan and Eddie Blue. What a performance, the fastest of those two clear rounds, Devin Ryan, Eddie Blue taking the victory. Our party stepped over to second place. Congratulations, runner-up position for Ireland, Shane Sweetnam and James Concruz. And then third, such a great try from Evan Coluccio for the USA, with Valdez Z. It is time for that victory lap of honours. Please congratulate them. Please do. Devin Ryan and Eddie Blue. Runner-up position for Ireland, Shane Sweetnam, James Concruz, and Evan Coluccio in third with Valdez Z. But we'll send him on his own. The winning combination for the FEI Welcome, Eddie Blue and Devin Ryan. Great competition, and thank you so much to our presentation party. We really appreciate that. So a competition that will continue on the penultimate day in terms of the international jumping, and until then, see you bright and early tomorrow morning.